Welcome to Scrubs Unzipped, Unveiling Healthcare's Hidden Passions. And this is going to be the first podcast episode. And I wanted to start off the foundation with why I'm doing what I'm doing. So, the first question that will open up the topic is, what have I sacrificed for the greater good? So, to answer that, we have to go back 3 years. It was the beginning of the pandemic, and I would say that I sacrificed my physical and mental health. I got really sick, and it was a COVID scare, so I got all the tests, and by this time, it took 3 days to get COVID test results. People don't realize that now you can get your COVID test in like 5 minutes. But 3 years ago, you had to wait 3 days. And that just really it messed with me mentally. And I had all these issues. I had a fever, I had chills, I was sick. And I called out of work the first week, and then the second week I was like, I can't call out of work anymore. I got to go to work even though I was just not 100%. And it's hard to take care of yourself when you're sick, especially when you have bills to pay, because I was a traveling respiratory therapist, an independent contractor, and we don't really get PTO, paid time off, when we're sick or when we go on vacations or anything like that. So we don't get paid if we don't work. So to I decided that I was going to go to work even though I wasn't 100%, because I really felt like I was sacrificing for the greater good and that I was trying to be a hero, basically. And so I had the world on my shoulders, and it was just a lot. It was just too much. Like, I go into great detail in the book that's coming up really soon. It's called The Dragon Slayers of Healthcare, and it talks about mental health and compassion fatigue and moral injury, and that's coming up, and I will let everyone know the release date. But just briefly, I would just say that I had like a full panic, anxiety, psychosis, full kind of mixture of everything, because I was waiting for these test results and I really thought I was going to die. And it was just, it was a lot. So I was calling everybody, like saying my goodbyes, and it just flew off from there. Like, I started losing touch with reality, and then I was hospitalized, not for physical ailments, but for mental anguish. So there were three things that I learned. If we fast forward to the present, in hindsight, the I learned three things. So the first thing I learned is I have to take care of myself in order to take care of others. So I am a respiratory therapist, and I've been a respiratory therapist for over a decade. And I have just like been in contact with a lot of patients, a lot of sick people, and it's a 12-hour shift, and I work night shift, and sometimes you just you sacrifice yourself. Sometimes you like miss lunch, or sometimes you hold your pee a little bit longer than you should, because you're like, oh, I got to see this next patient. I got to go to the next patient because they can't breathe. And then you just have this sense of urgency. Like, I can't get my full 30 minutes or an hour because someone just called me and said that they can't breathe, or they need a breathing treatment or something on those lines. But I have realized that I can't pour from an empty cup. And it's really hard. It's really hard to set boundaries when you are in healthcare and you work at a hospital where the hospital never closes. So the hospital's open 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So, and they're open on holidays and they're open at nighttime. So it's just like there's constantly, the hospital is like constantly open. So like the hospital never closes. But I've realized that if I don't take care of myself, then my patients will notice what's happening, and they'll notice like I'm not okay. So what I do is I have great self-care practices, and I make sure that I actually do the basics, really, like drinking water, eating a healthy diet, which I'm working on. Not perfect, but I'm working on eating a healthy diet. I'm working on making sure that my blood work is checked so that my doctor can check my levels, and make sure that I take my vitamins. And vitamin D is really important since I work night shift and I don't see the sun that much. So doing the basics really helped me a lot. And I just have, sometimes I just have to like put my foot down. Like, I have to tell somebody, like, because this the saying says the squeaky wheel gets the oil. So sometimes I make sure that I let people know, like, I haven't had a break yet. Can you hold my phone for me? Or because if I've been on shift for since 7 p.m. and I haven't stopped since 12 a.m. the next morning, like, I need a break. So I make sure to let people know, let my lead therapist know, let my buddy that we have at work, let them know. And it's the same in reverse. Like, I call when I get done with my work and make sure that they have everything that they need. So, because we're a team, and sometimes people suffer in silence, they say that they need to sacrifice things, but you don't need to sacrifice, because we don't want you falling out on the floor. We don't want to call a rapid response overhead because a coworker fainted. And it's happened before. it's it's happened before. Like, I've been in the hospital working, and someone just like fell on the ground, and you have like everyone like, oh, are they okay, like, what's going on? So it's happened before. It's not something I'm making up. People, co-workers and healthcare workers, they can fall out. They might have other health ailments that we don't know about, but I just want to put it out there that it's dangerous when you don't take care of yourself. Because imagine if that person was in a patient's room and they just fainted, it would just be like devastating, because the patient would be like, oh my goodness, this my nurse just fainted, like, what's going on? So I that's really number one for me. And the tips that I have to reiterate is just let people know that you're drowning. And sometimes it takes, like, you have to be vulnerable and say that, like, I don't got it. And people call me and say, are you okay? It's like, no, I'm not okay. I haven't taken a break. I haven't gone to the bathroom. I'm starting to feel shaky. I'm starting to feel lightheaded. So someone needs to take this phone, please. And I do it very nicely. And I make sure I put my foot down, because that is just something I'm passionate about, taking care of myself, because I didn't take care of myself the 3 years ago, and I don't know what I would be. I wouldn't even be here if I didn't take care of myself. So I realized that I need to put myself first, and that is number one. So, number two, the second thing that I learned is that I'm not alone, like in a support sense. Like, I have support from my family, I have support from my friends, I have support from my therapist. I have two therapists. So, I have lots of support, and I also have my beliefs. I believe in God, and I just I take everything, and I realize that I don't have to do it all on my own. Like, I don't have to have the weight of the world on my shoulders because I can't lift that weight. Like, it would be impossible. I would get crushed. So I take what I take the tools and all the resources that I have, and I use that to push me further along than when I can go by myself. And the last thing that I learned is that I'm not defined by what I do for a living. So we all have our titles with our jobs about what we do, like, oh, um, so and so is a lawyer, or so and so is a police officer, and I, Annmarie, am a respiratory therapist. It's just like a badge of honor because, like, I know the the meaning behind it, but there are other things that we are good at. There are other things that we enjoy doing that doesn't involve us working and getting a paycheck. And this is what birthed this podcast, Scrubs Unzipped, Unveiling Healthcare's Hidden Passions, because there are so many people that I meet at work that have these side hustles, side passions that no one really gets a chance to, like, no one gets a chance to listen to that. No one gets a chance to actually see behind the scrubs. And we will also be unzipping the stories, the not so good things about healthcare that we hope to improve in the future. So there are a lot of things coming up. I have some exciting guests, and I want to make sure that this is an all inclusive, all encompassing podcast that will help healthcare workers, and I want to help healthcare workers get to the next level in their life. I want them to realize that even though we do save lives, our lives are important too. And we are very good at what we do. We we do CPR, we shock rhythms, we sacrifice, but if we're not fulfilled, our patients can sense that, and when we take care of them. So when we balance our lives with our passions as well as our work, we have a more holistic life and a more balance to life. And it just makes us a better person and a better caretaker. So I wanted to end this episode with saying, and opened up the topic of, what have you sacrificed for the greater good? What have you put aside to make your future bright? And what have you done to help other people? And I say that I sacrificed this for the greater good, but I realize that I there are some things that aren't worth sacrificing, like my life, because that's real. Like your life is not worth sacrificing because people need you, and we are we are a community, and there are things that you can do that other people can't do, and that's why you're here. So I want to end this episode, and I want you to subscribe and to share with your other friends and other coworkers. And even if you're a patient and you want to take a peek into how we take care of you and the stories behind the scrubs, I encourage you to share as well. And until next time, thank you for watching. Bye.